Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, Stendra, are they dangerous for your heart? If you're over 60 and asking this question, you're not alone. Today on The Wise Senior, we're cutting through decades of confusion, fear, and myth around a group of medications called PDE5 inhibitors. You might be surprised by what you learn, especially if you've been avoiding them because of heart concerns. You've probably heard of Viagra. Maybe you've even used it or considered it. But did you know that this now famous little blue pill wasn't originally designed to treat erectile dysfunction at all? In fact, its story begins in a completely different place, the human heart. Back in the early 1990s, researchers in the UK were investigating ways to improve blood flow in patients with angina, that tight, chest-clenching pain caused by narrowed coronary arteries. The idea was simple. If we could relax the smooth muscle cells in the blood vessel walls, we could improve oxygen delivery to the heart, ease the pain, and help patients live longer, more active lives. Enter a compound called sildenafil. It was part of a class of drugs designed to inhibit a specific enzyme, phosphodiesterase type 5, or PDE5 for short. Blocking this enzyme meant blood vessels could stay relaxed for longer, improving circulation. In theory, it was promising. But in clinical trials, sildenafil didn't quite deliver the chest pain relief researchers hoped for. That would have been the end of the road for many compounds. But something curious happened. Doctors began hearing a recurring side effect from male participants. "Doctor, I'm not sure if it's helping my chest pain, but I've been waking up with stronger erections." At first, this was just an observation. But as more participants reported the same outcome, researchers took note. They had stumbled upon a major discovery, one that would soon change the lives of millions of men around the world. Suddenly, the pharmaceutical conversation shifted. What had once been a cardiac drug was now seen as a potential breakthrough for treating erectile dysfunction, or ED, a condition that affects up to 40% of men over 40 and becomes more common with age. And so in 1998, sildenafil was rebranded under the name Viagra, becoming the first FDA-approved oral medication for ED. Its impact was enormous. Not only did it offer an effective solution for a sensitive issue, but it also broke the cultural silence around male sexual health. But here's the part most people don't realize. Because Viagra was originally tested as a cardiovascular drug, its safety profile for the heart is much stronger than many assume. In fact, it was designed to benefit circulation, not harm it. Now, does that mean Viagra and its cousins, Cialis, Levitra, Stendra, are risk-free? No drug is, but the belief that these medications are automatically dangerous for people with heart issues. That's a myth, one based on early headlines, not the actual science. Of course, one important caveat remains. PDE5 inhibitors must never be combined with nitrates, like nitroglycerin, which are commonly prescribed for angina. Why? Because both medications relax blood vessels, and when taken together, they can drop your blood pressure to dangerously low levels. That's not a side effect, that's an emergency. In fact, the early years after Viagra's release saw a few tragic outcomes, when patients unknowingly mixed the two drugs. These stories made headlines around the world and stuck in the public memory. Unfortunately, that's what many people still associate with these medications today, even though we now have decades of evidence showing that when used appropriately, PDE5 inhibitors are not only safe for most heart patients, but potentially beneficial in ways we never imagined. Take, for example, tadalafil, the active ingredient in Cialis. It's now approved under a different brand name to treat pulmonary arterial hypertension, a condition marked by high blood pressure in the lungs. Why? Because it helps relax the blood vessels in the lungs, easing strain on the right side of the heart. So, to recap, the drug class that brought us Viagra wasn't born out of vanity or marketing. It came from the genuine pursuit of heart health, and just happened to deliver a remarkable side effect that became a global phenomenon. That's the beauty of medical discovery. Sometimes the most powerful results are the ones you don't expect. And for those of us in our golden years, understanding where these medications came from and how they truly affect the body can help us make smarter, more confident decisions. Because it turns out what's good for your heart might just be good for more than one part of you. Let's talk about one of the most persistent and misleading fears out there. The idea that medications like Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, or Stendra are dangerous for your heart. It's something I hear all the time from older men, and even more often from their concerned partners. But isn't that bad for your heart? And you know what? That's a valid question, because heart health is no place for guesswork. But here's the truth. For most people, these medications, known as PDE5 inhibitors, are not only safe for the heart, they were originally developed for the heart. Yes, really. You see, before Viagra became famous for improving erections, sildenafil, its active ingredient, was designed to help treat angina, the chest pain caused by restricted blood flow to the heart. Researchers were trying to relax and open up blood vessels, a goal that's central to treating heart-related conditions. In fact, vasodilation, the widening of blood vessels, is how these medications work. Now, during clinical trials, sildenafil didn't work particularly well for angina, but it produced a very noticeable side effect in men, and that's how its life took a different turn, from heart to intimacy. But that doesn't change its origin story. These drugs enhance circulation, including to the heart and lungs. In fact, one PDE5 inhibitor, tadalafil, the active ingredient in Cialis, is FDA approved for treating pulmonary arterial hypertension, a form of high blood pressure in the lungs. That's not just a sexual health benefit, that's a cardiovascular treatment. So where does all the fear come from? It traces back to one important and very real warning: do not take these drugs if you are on nitrate medications, such as nitroglycerin. That combination can cause a dangerous, even fatal, drop in blood pressure. That's why the warning label exists. And that's why doctors always ask about your medications before prescribing a PDE5 inhibitor. But here's what needs to be emphasized. If you're not on nitrates, studies have shown that these drugs have a strong safety profile, even for many people with existing heart conditions. Take, for example, Mr. Howard, a 72-year-old retired carpenter from Missouri. He was diagnosed with mild heart failure a few years back and had been hesitant about using anything for his erectile dysfunction. His cardiologist reviewed his medications, confirmed he wasn't on nitrates, and carefully prescribed him a low-dose tadalafil regimen. Not only did his intimacy return, but over time, Howard noticed improvements in energy, mood, and even shortness of breath. Why? Because tadalafil also helped reduce the strain on his lungs, a known bonus effect in patients with pulmonary pressures. What does the science say? Multiple studies show that PDE5 inhibitors can actually support cardiac function. They help lower pulmonary vascular resistance, improve left ventricular performance, and may even have anti-inflammatory effects on the heart tissue. Some researchers are now exploring their use after heart attacks to help remodel heart muscle and improve healing outcomes. While this isn't yet standard practice, the findings are promising. To put it plainly, Viagra and its relatives aren't hurting the heart. They may actually be helping it. But like any medication, the key is individual assessment. Your doctor needs to know your complete health picture. If you've had a recent heart attack, are on nitrates, or take certain blood pressure medications, like non-selective alpha blockers, these drugs may not be for you. But for many older adults, especially those in stable cardiovascular health, they're a safe, effective option that goes well beyond the bedroom. And let's not forget the emotional benefit. When someone regains a part of their intimacy, it often improves their quality of life, self-esteem, and even motivation to care for their health overall. A fulfilling sex life in later years isn't just about pleasure. It's about vitality, connection, and feeling alive. So the next time you hear someone say, "Aren't those pills dangerous for your heart?" remember the facts. With proper guidance, they might actually be doing more good than harm. Always talk to your doctor, and if you're unsure, consult a cardiologist before starting anything new. Here's where the confusion and real danger comes in. While Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and Stendra are generally safe for most heart patients, there is one very important exception. If you are currently taking nitrate medications, such as nitroglycerin for chest pain, combining them with PDE5 inhibitors can lead to a serious and sometimes life-threatening drop in blood pressure. Why does this happen? It all comes down to how these drugs work. Both nitrates and PDE5 inhibitors dilate blood vessels. That's actually a good thing when done in moderation. It's what allows more blood to flow, whether to the heart or to the penis. But when both medications are taken together, Their effects can compound in dangerous ways, causing blood pressure to plummet rapidly. For some people, this can result in dizziness, fainting, heart rhythm problems, and in rare cases, even cardiac arrest. Take, for example, the story of Mr. Harold Green, a 69-year-old retired engineer from Portland. Harold had been taking nitroglycerin tablets for stable angina for over a decade. One evening, hoping to rekindle intimacy with his wife after months of feeling disconnected, he tried a dose of sildenafil Viagra given to him by a friend, without consulting his doctor. Within an hour, Harold collapsed. He was rushed to the ER with dangerously low blood pressure. Thankfully, he survived, but not without a stern warning from his cardiologist. Never combine nitrates with PDE5 inhibitors again. Unfortunately, this kind of scenario isn't just a fluke. In the early 2000s, shortly after the launch of Viagra, several sudden deaths were reported in men who had unknowingly taken nitrates and sildenafil together. While these tragic cases were relatively rare, they made headlines around the world. And ever since, the fear stuck, leading many people to assume that Viagra itself is dangerous for anyone with a heart condition. But here's the truth. The problem isn't the drug itself. The danger lies in mixing it with certain medications, and doing so without medical guidance. In fact, studies show that for patients not taking nitrates, PDE5 inhibitors have an impressive safety profile, even in those with stable cardiovascular disease. Clinical trials and observational studies have demonstrated that these medications do not increase the risk of heart attack or stroke when used responsibly. On the contrary, some evidence suggests that they may even improve certain aspects of heart health by supporting vascular flexibility and reducing inflammation. Still, the caution remains, and for good reason. Many common heart medications fall into the nitrate category: isosorbide mononitrate, isosorbide dinitrate, and nitroglycerin sprays or patches, to name a few. Even occasional use, like popping a nitro tablet during chest discomfort, could become dangerous if combined with a recent dose of a PDE5 inhibitor. That's why it's so important to talk to your doctor. Don't assume anything. Don't guess based on what worked for a friend. Have a clear conversation about what medications you're on, what your goals are, and whether a drug like Viagra or Cialis is safe for you. And if you're not taking nitrates, that's good news, because under those circumstances, most cardiologists agree that PDE5 inhibitors are a safe option, even for patients with a history of heart disease. The key is medical supervision, honest communication, and a personalized approach. So yes, there is a real danger, but it's one that can be easily avoided with the right guidance. Remember, it's not about fear, it's about informed choices. Let's take a moment to flip the script, because what if we told you that the very medication most people associate only with intimacy might actually help your heart? That's right. The same group of medications known as PDE5 inhibitors, drugs like sildenafil, Viagra, tadalafil Cialis, and vardenafil Levitra, have been shown in multiple studies to have cardiovascular benefits. In fact, under the right conditions, they might even support the heart's ability to function better over time. Let's start with how the heart works under strain. In conditions like heart failure or left ventricular dysfunction, the heart struggles to pump effectively. This leads to something called chamber dilation, where the left ventricle begins to enlarge and weaken. Over time, this can make the heart less efficient, increasing fatigue and breathlessness with even simple activities like walking or climbing stairs. Now here's where PDE5 inhibitors enter the picture, and things get interesting. Research over the past 2 decades has shown that these medications can reduce pressure in the pulmonary arteries, the vessels that carry blood from the heart to the lungs, improve the heart's ability to relax between beats, diastolic function, and decrease the overall workload on the left ventricle. This effect is known as cardiac remodeling, and it's a good thing. It means the heart is moving back toward a more efficient, less strained state. In one long-term study from Italy, men with chronic heart failure who regularly took sildenafil not only reported better quality of life and exercise tolerance, but also showed objective improvements in heart function on imaging scans. Other studies have echoed this, showing that PDE5 inhibitors can improve both systolic function, how strongly the heart pumps, and diastolic function, how well the heart relaxes. Even more promising, these medications appear to have an anti-inflammatory effect. Chronic inflammation is a key driver of cardiovascular disease, contributing to plaque buildup and tissue damage. PDE5 inhibitors seem to reduce these inflammatory markers, particularly in the walls of the coronary arteries and heart muscle itself. That's why some researchers are now studying their use in conditions like post-heart attack recovery or diastolic heart failure, conditions where treatment options are limited. Take Edward, for example. He's a 71-year-old retired school principal living in Colorado. After a mild heart attack 3 years ago, he struggled with energy and confidence. His cardiologist prescribed the usual medications, beta blockers, statins, but Edward still felt tired, especially during physical activity. Then, after talking openly with his doctor about his struggles with intimacy, he was prescribed tadalafil at a low daily dose. What happened next surprised even his doctor. Not only did Edward report improvements in his sexual health, but he noticed he could walk longer distances without fatigue. Follow-up tests showed his heart's filling pressure had improved. "It felt like I got a piece of my life back," Edward said. "And I had no idea it would come from a pill that people used to joke about." Of course, this doesn't mean PDE5 inhibitors are a magic bullet for heart disease. They're not appropriate for everyone, and they're not yet FDA approved specifically for post-heart attack recovery. But mounting evidence suggests their use in specific cardiovascular conditions, like pulmonary hypertension, is both effective and safe. In fact, tadalafil is already FDA approved for treating pulmonary arterial hypertension under the brand name Adcirca. So if you've been told that drugs like Viagra are only about sex, think again. Their ability to improve vascular tone, reduce pressure on the heart, and fight inflammation opens up a world of possibilities for aging adults managing both intimacy and cardiovascular health. Just remember, don't self-prescribe. Always talk to your doctor before starting any medication, especially if you have a heart condition. But it may be time to stop fearing the little blue pill and start recognizing its much bigger potential. When most people think of Viagra or Cialis, they think of one thing: intimacy. But what if we told you these medications offer more than just help in the bedroom? Much more, in fact. Welcome to the world of PDE5 inhibitors, a class of medications that might just be one of the most versatile tools in modern medicine. For men dealing with more than one age-related health concern, these drugs are quietly proving themselves to be a bit of a Swiss Army knife, adaptable, efficient, and surprisingly safe when used properly. Let's start with something millions of men over 50 are familiar with: prostate issues. Specifically, benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, also known as an enlarged prostate. This common condition leads to symptoms like urinary urgency, nighttime trips to the bathroom, weak flow, and difficulty starting or stopping urination. It's not life-threatening, but it can seriously affect quality of life. And here's where things get interesting. For years, the standard treatments for BPH included alpha blockers and 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. These work well, but often come with side effects, including, ironically, sexual dysfunction. But now tadalafil, the same active ingredient in Cialis, is approved by the FDA to treat both erectile dysfunction and BPH at the same time. How does it work? Just like in the blood vessels of the penis and lungs, PDE5 enzymes are found in the smooth muscle of the bladder and prostate. By inhibiting this enzyme, tadalafil relaxes the muscles and increases blood flow, which leads to improved urinary flow, reduced urgency, and less discomfort. It can even help reduce that frustrating feeling of incomplete emptying, something many men silently live with. Take Dennis, for example, a 69-year-old retired postman in Illinois. For years, Dennis dealt with mild ED and bothersome urinary symptoms. He was up 3 times a night, couldn't sit through a movie without needing a bathroom break, and dreaded long car rides. After a conversation with his urologist, he was prescribed a low daily dose of tadalafil. 2 months later, Dennis reported fewer nighttime awakenings, better control, and to his surprise, improved confidence and intimacy as well. "It was like checking off 2 boxes with one medication," he said. "I sleep better, move easier, and feel more like myself again." And the benefits don't stop there. Because PDE5 inhibitors work on smooth muscle and blood flow, researchers are actively exploring their impact on other health conditions, including Raynaud's disease, certain types of high blood pressure, and even exercise tolerance and heart failure. Some preliminary studies have suggested that these medications may reduce inflammation, enhance oxygen delivery, and improve microcirculation in ways we're only beginning to understand. Of course, this doesn't mean everyone should start taking these medications. Like all medicines, PDE5 inhibitors come with considerations. For instance, they should never be combined with nitrates, which are used to treat chest pain. Doing so can cause a serious, even life-threatening, drop in blood pressure. But outside of that specific risk, their safety profile is remarkably strong. Since Viagra's approval in 1998, these medications have been taken by millions of men worldwide. And thanks to ongoing research, doctors now understand much more about how to dose them, who they benefit most, and how to integrate them into broader health strategies. So the next time you hear someone reduce these medications to just sex pills, remember, the science says otherwise. They support vascular health, prostate health, urinary ease, and yes, intimate well-being. In a world where medications often treat one thing while creating another problem, it's rare to find a treatment that checks so many boxes. That's why PDE5 inhibitors, when used wisely and under a doctor's care, are earning their place in the toolkit of healthy aging. Think of them not as a shortcut, but as a smart step toward a more active, more comfortable, and more connected life. After everything we've explored, one thing becomes clear. PDE5 inhibitors like Viagra, Cialis, Viagra, and Cialis are far more than just little blue pills. They've become essential tools in supporting not only sexual health, but also urinary comfort, vascular well-being, and even aspects of heart function. But as with all powerful tools, the key is knowing how and when to use them safely. Let's start with what we now know. First, these medications are not inherently dangerous to the heart. In fact, unless you're taking specific medications like nitrates or non-selective alpha blockers, studies have consistently shown that PDE5 inhibitors have a high safety profile, even for many people with cardiovascular conditions. These drugs help relax blood vessels, which supports blood flow and lowers vascular resistance. Beneficial effects, especially when monitored properly. Still, the most important rule here is this: never take PDE5 inhibitors if you're also on nitrate medication. That includes common angina drugs like nitroglycerin. When combined, the two substances can cause blood pressure to plummet, not slightly, but dangerously low. This is the one interaction that has led to fatal outcomes, especially in the early years when the warning wasn't as well known. It's also what led to the persistent myth that these medications were dangerous for the heart, a belief that still lingers in the public today. But now we know better. If you're a man over 50, or even over 70, and you're dealing with erectile dysfunction, urinary urgency, or even just reduced confidence in intimacy, PDE5 inhibitors may be a safe and effective option to restore both function and quality of life. Let's take Edward, for example, a 73-year-old retired music teacher from Oregon. After surviving a mild heart attack at 68, Edward assumed that intimacy was simply off the table for him. "I thought that part of life was over," he said. "I was worried the pills would hurt my heart, so I never brought it up with my doctor. But after a thorough consultation, including a review of his medications, his cardiologist gave the green light to try a low dose of tadalafil. The result? It didn't just help physically, it helped me feel like myself again." Edward shared, "I felt connected, confident, and less anxious." That's the kind of impact these medications can have, not just on the body, but on the emotional and relational experience of aging. However, the key to this success story is that Edward had an honest, informed conversation with his doctor. He didn't self-prescribe, and he didn't buy pills online without knowing the risks. That's the message we want to reinforce. These medications are safe when used properly, under guidance. So if you're considering PDE5 inhibitors, here are a few smart steps to take. Start with a medical review. Talk to your primary care provider or a urologist. Let them know about all the medications you take, even over-the-counter ones. Certain drug combinations, especially with nitrates or alpha blockers, may be incompatible. Check your heart health. If you have a history of heart disease, schedule a visit with your cardiologist. They can evaluate whether your heart is strong enough for sexual activity, and if these medications are safe for your condition. Start with the lowest effective dose. For many older adults, a lower dose works just fine. Your doctor will likely recommend starting small to monitor your body's response and adjust if needed. Avoid online or unregulated sources. Counterfeit pills are a real danger. Always use licensed pharmacies and never purchase erectile dysfunction medications from unknown websites or unverified vendors. Be patient with your body. Age, health conditions, and medications all play a role in sexual function. These pills can help, but they're not a magic switch, and that's okay. Focus on intimacy, connection, and communication with your partner, not just performance. In the end, the story of PDE5 inhibitors is one of rediscovery, not only of function, but of confidence, comfort, and connection. Used wisely, these medications can give back what time or illness may have taken away. Just remember, your health is a team effort. Don't go it alone. Talk to your doctor, ask questions, stay informed, because intimacy, at any age, is worth protecting. Don't let myths stand between you and a better life. As we age, many of us become more cautious about our health, and rightfully so. But sometimes, caution turns into avoidance, especially when it's fueled by outdated myths or half-truths. One powerful example is the belief that medications like Viagra or Cialis are dangerous for the heart. In truth, for most people, especially when not combined with nitrate medications, these drugs are not only safe, but may even support heart and urinary health. The real takeaway? Knowledge is empowerment. When we take time to understand how something works, whether it's a medication, a diagnosis, or a bodily change, we reduce fear and gain options. PDE5 inhibitors are not just about intimacy. They're about restoring confidence, improving relationships, and maintaining well-being into older age. So if something in your health is holding you back, don't suffer in silence. Talk to your doctor. Ask questions. The answers might surprise you and could open the door to greater vitality and connection in the years ahead. Because aging doesn't mean giving up joy, it means learning new ways to protect and enjoy it, wisely and with dignity. These little blue pills and their cousins have helped millions, and now we're learning they might be doing even more than we imagined. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to The Wise Senior, and share it with someone who might benefit from this message. And we'd love to hear from you. It can be as simple as leaving a number in the comments. 1 if you learned something new. 2 if you feel more confident talking to your doctor. 3 if this cleared up a myth you once believed. Or 4 if you just enjoyed the video. Take care, and remember, knowledge is power, especially when it's backed by science.